Michael Voss has been good enough to join us here on Drive on SEN. Hey, Michael, congratulations, mate. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you. Yes, very exciting. Very exciting.
I'm sure it is. When did you find out? Not necessarily to the minute, but when did you know that the job was yours?
Well, I wandered in here at about 10 o'clock this morning, and so it was interesting because I wasn't too sure what to expect. And then I got told the news, and I wasn't sure whether there'd be another stage that I had to go with before the confirmation was made, if I was the person or not. But I was told on the spot, and it caught me a little bit by surprise, but it was certainly some welcome news.
So that was off the back of what we're led to believe was a fairly extensive interview last night. Is that the timeline? Is that timeline accurate?
Yeah, that's correct. I flew in. As I said when I arrived, I flew in the hope that clearly I'd be named. I took a chance because it's not going to be real simple for me to get back home.
No.
So I sort of thought I might have been here for a few weeks in lockdown if it didn't go my way. But we had an extensive chat yesterday. And then as it sort of started to unfold, then this morning, Brad touched base and said we're going over to the club, and that's where it was confirmed.
Michael, congratulations on the new job. You've been in footy for a hell of a long time, been a coach before, and you haven't left. You've been an assistant coach for the last 8 years or so. But does it feel like today that you're stepping back into the arena?
You do. And there's some real excitement that comes with that, and I think that the big thing has been a lot of commentary about my own personal journey, and it's taken an enormous amount of work to get back to this point, and we're fortunate in that we've had a lot of great years at Port Adelaide, and and our group is the Port Adelaide team has just had such a fantastic last couple of years and fallen a little bit short, and but obviously very excited to be able to take your team again and pour all your IP into the program and all your IP back into the players and have another go at it.
In the 8 years since you've been a senior coach, what do you see as probably the biggest change in your evolution in a personal sense?
Yeah, I think what I decided to chase when I finished up at Brisbane was, leadership was, a massive space for me, and around coaching and the communication and relationship building, and that's probably where I've centred a lot of my own personal development. I also spent a little bit more time around, getting a deeper understanding of people and the connection space. So that's been hugely rewarding. So I guess I like to think that my point of difference is having some of that leadership, having that presence, and the ability to be able to bring people together, which will be important for us moving forward.
So clearly, you would have observed, Ken Hinkley up close, but I'm guessing, you would have observed the role of a senior coach in those 8 years. How has the job changed, do you think?
I think in some ways, the job's become bigger because it's become more complex. I know we've had a correction with soft cap, but the people have sort of grown. Football departments have grown, and when it grows, there's another level of complexity that comes with it, and so there's so many other stakeholders that you have to meet. But I think that what any good program, or any good certainly football program, is there to support the head coach to be able to spend the time where he needs, and that's building relationships with the players and coaching the team.
I suppose in the eyes of many, Michael, a lot of people around the game look at the Carlton list and think that it's ripe for an immediate sort of bounce. I imagine you would have had to put a plan in front of the Carlton board for, a plan for next season and expectations. How do you see this list and this team in the next year?
Oh, full of promise. Also, it's about understanding that this promise and potential. We've got to convert into consistency, reliability, and durability. And They're not necessarily the most sexiest words that you can use, but they get the job done. And I guess for us is that being able to build that trust in how we perform every week and how we perform in big moments throughout games will be a really big focus for this group. And when we become dependable in those moments, then we'll get to where we want to go, and we'll get there pretty quickly.
Michael, well, you saw them in round 22 as an opposition coach, part of the team that dismantled Carlton in the second last game of the year, and it was an embarrassment for Carlton that 18 or 19 straight unanswered that Port Adelaide put on Carlton. Will you give Carlton, this group of players, will you give them a bit of a reflection from an opposition's perspective? Will you tell them from a scouting point of view what other teams have been saying about them in an attempt to trigger a response?
No, not really. And I guess like for me, one of the really important pieces even getting back into coaching and going to Port Adelaide was I wanted a fresh start, and I wanted to be judged based on what I did there in that moment. And when you get a person that comes in with a fresh set of eyes, they deserve that at the very, very start. What we have to do though is that we have to acknowledge that there's a few areas that we need to improve, and then we start to wrap around the right environment with these guys. Some of it's game style, absolutely. Some of it's around culture and how we connect with one another. And some of it's going to be around how we coach them to be able to get them up to speed really quickly with the demands that we're going to expect moving forward. So I don't think there's really much. It's not really necessary to back over what's being done.
Yep.
But also, I think we've got to acknowledge that going through the back half of the year with the environment and what was going on, it's probably not a true accurate reflection of the group. And we'll give them that chance to be able to get here with a fresh start, with a fresh set of eyes and a new program.
Michael, there's some gaps in the assistant coaches around you. Have you already started conversations with the club around recommendations or people you'd like to bring into that, or will you just do it as a collective?
We started that today, so it's happening pretty quickly. I guess one of the benefits of being here in Melbourne, I'm not in a rush to get home, so I'll spend the next little while just firstly getting over or across the coaches that we need to bring in. So there's a collective discussion around that. Obviously, you've got to start to get my head around the list build and the upcoming trade week that will be honoured before we know it. So there's a couple of important pieces immediately we need to get to, and then I guess next week for me. It's starting to reach out to the players and get to them and start to have a chat to them and get them to get to know them a little bit more.
Vossi, will you sit down, apropos of trade week, will you sit down with somebody like Sam Petreski-Seaton and have a chat to him? Is that something you might do in the next couple of days?
I hope so, yes. I'm not fully up to speed with where all that's at the moment, other than what I've read, like you guys. But I think that's an important part is to have a chat where he's at, his desires, why he'd want to take the move that he's proposing, and just have a bit of a chat with him. Likewise, anyone who we're thinking about bringing in, it's going to be a pretty important couple of weeks.
Michael, one of the nuances for clubs and for senior coaches is, dealing with past players and past champions of that club and bringing them along for the ride. How will you balance that as a coach and trying to shape this group of players and also indulging the 9-year-old Michael Voss and all the old Carlton clobber you had and being a bit of a Carlton fanboy? How quickly will you bring Kenny Hunter in to talk to the players, I suppose, is the question I'm asking.
Kenny Hunter will be my speed dial. So I've now got rights. Look, I think it's a critical part of our way forward, and I'm clearly aware of the history of the Carlton Football Club, and as you said, I was a bit of a Carlton nuffy in my day, so I absolutely loved it and lived and breathed it, and the names, are absolutely legendary for me. But, part of being able to make a United club is being able to acknowledge our past and the strength of our past. But what we can't afford to do is think that the expectations of that becomes a burden. It's not that at all. In fact, we can actually build some really strong purpose, and we can get some real deeper wins as a football club by making sure we bring more people along, and clearly our past players are critical to that.
How well do you know Brian Cook, Michael?
Very well in the last 24 hours.
Right. Had you had much to do with? Had you had much to do with one? I mean, there's you, there's the new CEO and the new president. This is, as Bob said when we were saying g'day to you, this is very much the front line of what the next version of Carlton looks like, and you three in particular are going to be really important that you have a great working relationship between the three of you. Have you had much to do with Brian up until the last day or two?
No, not previously. But as you can imagine, the people that I have, and I've got some people that I know very well that have had some strong dealings with him over quite a period of time. And I've got to say I'm extremely excited about working with him, and also with Brad Lloyd as the football manager. Has just been thoroughly professional in everything that he's done throughout this period of time. So, but today was a very significant day because we get to, with I guess the final leadership position, if you want to call it that, we get to shift the energy. And I know there's been a lot of discussion around the review and what's come out of the review, and sometimes you need the mess to get the clarity on where you want to go moving forward. And there's a genuine acceptance to change and a difference and a point of difference that they're looking for, and we get to shift that energy now. So when we get the players back, when we get them back, I'm sure they'll be pretty excited to take on a new challenge.
Michael, I was wondering if you could indulge me. This is a question. It's almost like half a step removed from your announcement as the new Carlton coach. But I was wondering, now that you've landed the job as a senior coach, can you sort of talk almost on behalf of assistant coaches in the league of the almost absurd perception amongst some that you've got to almost navigate how many jobs you apply for because it can seem like a cross against your name if they go a different path?
Yeah, that's absolutely critical, and the perception and reality of football is, even more difficult to manage. As media's grown and as there's this, social media and it's a really difficult one to overcome. And I guess my position has been on it is that, well, if you want it, go for it. And you'll be at different stages of where you think you are. You might be at a stage where you don't think you're quite ready, but just being able to go through the process, it just gives you real clear thoughts on the way you would do it, the program, how you do it, your philosophies on how you would go about it, and it just can only strengthen your belief in the way that you would go about it. So there's that first part, and the other part is that you won't suit every club, and you might not suit every single club. So, but there may be that club that just suits you at the right time and at the right moment, and that's where your opportunity lies. So, I would ditch the perception and make it your own reality.
Michael, what does it mean to you? While we've been talking, I've got a text message from one of your former colleagues at Port Adelaide just raving about the appointment and how good it's going to be for your new footy club. And I know that Ken Hinkley, we all know that Ken Hinkley's been an enormous supporter of you and a real encourager of those who have wanted to take on a new coach to consider you. What does it mean to you to know that people who you spent so much time with at Port Adelaide are so positive and enthusiastic in helping you get this next opportunity?
Well, clearly I'm very excited with the opportunity I've got, but I'm more than happy to say that I love the people there. It's been built over a long period of time. We've had some really, we've had some down moments, we've had some up moments, and I sort of feel like I've shared in that journey and have a really, I'm having a great place about where they are, and why they've been up, why we didn't quite get it done in that preliminary final, and it hurt, and it was to the Western Bulldogs' advantage. They're very much on the right path. They've got a great set of coaches. Playing group are just always wanting to get better, and a very, very close group. And the club's completely in line with that. So to leave it is really difficult, and I don't say it often, but there's a lot of people I loved at that place, and it was difficult to leave. And reading through the text messages is just extremely humbling.
Well, mate, let's hope that you don't have to consider leaving Carlton for a long, long, long time to come. But when you do, you leave with the same sort of affection from Carlton people that you've had from Port Adelaide people. And let's hope when you do, there's about 6 premierships with your name well and truly on them, mate. If
six is a lot.
Six, 7 or 8. Let's start at 6 and we'll see where we go from there, shall we? Mate, all the best. It's been a hell of a process to get here. You are a giant of the game, and your second time round, we all understand that the evolution leads to improvement, and we can't wait to see what you can do at the footy club. Just last, logistically, do you go home now, or do you go back to Adelaide for the 14 days, or do you stay now and just get the family to come and catch up?
No, I'm here indefinitely at the moment, so I'll have to navigate some SA health protocols. So. I've got to get approval first there, so that might take a while. And when I do go back, it's a mandatory 2 weeks in quarantine. So, that's why it was tough last week to sort of think if I do have to end up going, there's a fair bit to consider. So, but at least now it's with having the job, it gives me something to get stuck into while I am here.
Oh, mate, you're lob in Melbourne at a magnificent time. We're just flying over here at the moment, so
watch out for the earthquakes.
You'll have a great old time, mate. Hey, congratulations on the appointment. All the best.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Good on you, mate. Michael Voss.